Thanks everyone for joining the live town hall for current students. We wanted to make sure we talked to you all very early and very clearly so you know what's going on and you don't have to wonder about how we're going to open in the fall and our perspectives on some current crises and challenges facing our nation. So we want to get the students early in the process because you're all the reason that we're here. The young men and women that are attending Norwich as our students and future alums are going to be what perpetuates this wonderful school well into our third century of service. So in the middle of current events in our nation, obviously that we're in different levels of crises for many different reasons. So we're also in a bit of a changeover here at Norwich. And I really want to get to know each of you very well. And I got to meet many of you during my visits, and some of you reached out to me personally via LinkedIn and email and some other communicative venues. So I appreciate everyone that said hello and asked me questions at a personal level. And I appreciate everyone who sent in the questions. We'll get to all those very, very soon. But I do want to get to know you all, like I said, and I want to know what's on your mind. So there'll be a moment at the end of this town hall for live questions and answers. So please do submit them into this chat board as we're moving forward. So I'm showing up here as the 24th president of Norwich, and I'm following President Schneider after 28 years of remarkable service. And I hope you got to see the video of our changeover, but we were very careful not to use the word replace, because you can't replace a gentleman like President Schneider. But I offered him relief, which is a military term, and he accepted. So I'm just following this wonderful president we've had for the last 28 years, and I'll hope that I can move the school forward in the direction that we can all agree on and support each other with. So the school's in great shape. I will offer that to you with great confidence. Everything's going well. The academic programs are very strong. The student life programs are very strong. The school as a whole, the brand of the school is really phenomenal. And I'm coming from Colorado, as most of you know. And before that, I've been involved with other colleges and universities around the country. I've served with Norwich graduates in many capacities in many different venues and capacities, and Norwich has put out remarkable men and women in all fields for a very long time. So I applaud all of you for being here and for what you're going to do in the future with us. So as we get to know each other, I just want to make sure you get to hear my thoughts on several critical issues, first of them being higher education. It's not a business, it's not even a sector of industry. It's a calling, it's a very noble calling. And delivering a quality education to all of you is our number one priority, to making sure you get the right experience in the classroom and on the campus and with each other. That'll be the primary focus that we deliver. But it's also a great time to look at ways to evolve together. It's a great foundation. The school's very fortunate to have the foundation it has currently. And I do want to hear your ideas. I've asked the faculty and staff to share theirs, and as students, I want to hear from you. A lot of you have ideas of how to make the school better, and I do look forward to hearing that from you. So culturally, as a campus, as a community, I want you to hear very clearly from me that I would like for it to be a family atmosphere. We'll have, not all families get along all the time, but they always have each other's backs, and they can always have open and honest communication and exchanges together. And that's what I want us to be. I want us to disagree respectfully, have respectful dialogue, talk about complex issues, and then move forward together as a family and to support each other as we move forward. I will always be direct and open and honest with each of you, and I expect you to do the same with me. We'll have a respectful tone because we are a senior military college, and even our civilian students will understand that structure. But when you see me out and about and I ask you a question, I hope that you'll have an honest input for me that I can act on, or we can have an open conversation. But the purpose of this school is to build the next generation of leaders for our republic and for the world. And I'm very excited to be part of that. And when I say the next generation of leaders, of course, that means all of you. So I ask you to own your part in that process. So priorities. My number one overarching priority is going to be to build the campus community into a family environment and to continue the success that we're exhibiting right now. So all of you are doing great. The school is doing great. Continuing that and enabling further excellence will be my overarching thematic priority. But the three clear priorities as I go forward, especially entering the fall. So we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and you can watch the news and you'll see there's been resurgence in several areas, and how we can operate as a school is going to be dictated by some restraints based on that environment. And we will figure it out, but my number one priority is how to have in-person instruction and an in-person campus experience here that is safe for our faculty, staff, and especially our students. So that'll be number one priority. Number two is making sure that we're postured for success as we move into our third century of service. Academic programs, as I said, are very strong. I'd like to review some of the ways we do things here at Norwich to make sure all of you as students are postured for success. And we want Norwich not to be a follower or a peer institution. We want to be a leader as an institution. And how our students enter the workforce and how they conduct themselves as graduates will be critical to that. So we want to make sure we give you the right tools. And the third priority, which really will be happening simultaneously, is immersing myself in a Norwich culture. You know, like I said, I've been a fan of the school forever, worked with your graduates in very complex environments, and I've always been incredibly impressed. And I want to make sure we continue to capture what makes it special, not disrupt what makes it special, and build on what is excellent, and so we can move forward together. So the two biggest topics of the day are, of course, the COVID pandemic and the civil unrest in our country, driven mostly by racial tension and police misconduct. And you deserve to hear from me very clearly about both, and I will discuss both right now in some detail. So first for COVID, and a lot of you are wondering, so how are we going to operate our campus once we can come back, and what are going to be the rules? And we are working through all of that in great detail, and we have a lot of wonderful committees and remarkable task forces doing amazing work. And I want to thank all the faculty, staff, and some of the student reps and community members that are helping us build those response plans and our operating environments. We are committed to in-person instruction for the fall of 20. So how we can pull it off, we're working out now, but we expect to have all of you back in the fall. So Governor Scott of Vermont has expressed his intent to let all higher ed institutions in Vermont open this fall. Now, while we appreciate that very much and we're going to move forward, the details have not yet been shared, and we expect those in the next few weeks. And as they come available, we will share them very openly and honestly so you can prepare to come back. But I hope everyone can appreciate the fact we can do certain things as a community and as a university, but we are beholden to our elected officials and our public health officials and how we can do those things. So we will, and we will provide you all the information as soon as it's available and as soon as we have an executable plan for each of you. So we'll get you all back. We'll do so in a safe and responsible manner, but we'll have to follow the rules set forth by Vermont and our country. Now, the issue of racial unrest, inequities in our society, and police misconduct. You're watching the news, you see how this is happening everywhere. So unfortunately, if you're a student of history, like many of you are, and you might have remembered seeing this in previous years, we've been here before in similar ways. The death of George Floyd and at the hands of the Minneapolis police, it really sparked off a lot of emotions that are very well-founded and very valid. So what do we do next? What do we do with the crisis to make sure we handle it responsibly as an institution? And I believe that Norwich will be at the front of the conversation. We have elite faculty and staff that do remarkable things and have very well-developed programs, and we have functional experts in all the areas that are being challenged right now by the current levels of civil unrest. So we will be at the front. Some of you as students will be at the front. And we're going to bring all of you, or many of you, out front to have the discussion and to lead the national discussion. And we're excited to do that. And I ask you all, the level of passion and emotion behind this is very valid and well-founded. But as we're having a discussion, I ask that we keep it to be respectful and to have civil discourse. Our country is losing that in some sectors. I ask that on Norwich as a family, we are able to handle this in a very refined and it's a complex issue, it's very nuanced, it's very emotional, but we have to approach it in a reasoned way, and I'm going to help us all do that. But I'll be very clear as the president of the college, of this university, we will have an open and very respectful campus climate where everyone is safe, and where we have space for civil and very open dialogue. And I'll help facilitate that personally. And I'm going to work with the faculty and the staff to do this in a way that is beneficial for all of you as students and as members of a larger community. And I want to be really clear about the welcoming tone. You know, it is a time for Norwich to lead, and I want to do this as Norwich together, and I hope you'll join me with that. And that we have a very well-established and refined and evolving DEI community, diversity, equity, and inclusion, being led by Dr. Affinito, our provost, and many members of the audience right now, you and your current students. We'll approach these issues also as a community, and we'll talk very, very openly and honestly. So those are the things I wanted to share. I imagine that probably generated some questions that you'll feed into the live Q&A. I'm going to go through your mailed-in questions, emailed questions, go through the responses that we put together for you, and then we'll do the live Q&A here in the end, and then I'll have some closing comments for the last 5 minutes. So going through your questions. I was asked about dogs. If I have dogs, and can you walk them? Which is probably the most frequent question that I get. And I will tell you that, yes, I have 2 dogs. That my family and I are probably going to get another one here in the fall. I have one that everyone is welcome to walk all the time. And if you can throw a tennis ball or hit a tennis ball with a wiffle ball bat or a aluminum baseball bat or with a hockey stick, you can take Holly for as long as you want. She's a 3-year-old. We think she's a Rizla mix with some Labrador, but she will run all day. And you can take her anytime you want. So, yes, you can come to the house. You can borrow Holly. She listens wonderfully, and she's remarkably intelligent. And I also have Reggie, who's either 12 or 14. We adopted him. We rescued him. He got run over by a car 14 years ago. We didn't think he'd live, but $4,000 later, he's a member of the family. He is a dog that shouldn't be breed-wise. I think he's got a Border Collie face, a Corgi body, Basset Hound legs, and a tail that's unidentifiable. He can't walk very far, and he's half blind, but you're welcome to walk Reggie. Although he did bite the window guy in Colorado before we moved, so we'll have to build you up towards a Reggie encounter. But 2 dogs, probably got one more coming, and all students are welcome to share in the joy that is Holly and Reggie. But I'll recommend Holly as out of the gate. All right, next question is, will students be returning to campus this fall? If so, will there be a 2-week quarantine once we arrive, making it necessary for students to arrive 2 weeks earlier than we originally planned? So how we arrive and how we bring the students and regain you all back onto the campus is going to be very well developed. And I'm looking at General Vanacek right now, who's sitting next to me. I have a room full of our leaders from the university. General Vanacek is going to be publishing those rules very, very soon in concert with the task forces that are working with the university how to bring everyone back safely. We could probably expect a staggered report and a staggered return so we can test people as needed and not receive everyone at once and overstrain our system. So there are a lot of things being published across states. There'll be alignment between Vermont, the state, and other communities around the country and around the world. Some can come in with different rules than others, depending on where you're coming from. I will just say that we will tell you as soon as we have a refined plan that is in accordance and follows the rules being set by the Vermont state government. We had to fight to open. You know, that's the only way I can say it. The easier answer is not to allow us to open as a campus in resident community. But we've convinced with the other colleges and universities in Vermont to convince our elected officials. We worked very hard to let us open as an in-residence campus. So we're working through the rules that they will approve and accept, and we'll publish them as soon as we have them. We'd like to tell you details now that we think will happen, that we're asking for, but if we give you those as planning factors, we don't want to pull the wool out, pull the rug out from underneath you if it has to change. So I will just tell you, we'll publish them soon. And it'll be very well developed, and it'll be very fluid, and it'll be professional. And General Vanacek is taking notes as we talk. All right, the next question: what about international students that can't leave their respective countries and cannot attend the school during fall in person? Is there a possibility for online classes? And for that, I'll just tell you that we actually have some plans being developed. And we will work with everyone on a case-by-case basis. Each country is going to be unique, and the relationship with our national government is going to drive some of that. But Dr. Affinito, our provost, and the rest of the team, they're developing the plans for our international students to make sure we can receive who we can in the right way. And those who can't attend, we'll figure out ways to work with you in your individual cases. So the next question is, regarding the plan to reopen campus, why does the administration deem it necessary to move to online instruction after Thanksgiving break? Wouldn't it make more sense to test students arriving back on campus, as we will be required to when we arrive in the fall? Is the risk great enough at this point to hinder the traditions and experience of this year's incoming Rooks? So we will make sure the Rooks get a good experience and they get the crucible that they should experience as a freshman class, as the Rooks of Norwich. How we can do this, we're going to develop and publish, and the cadets will have a lot to say in how we're going to pull this off. But allowing students to leave for fall break at Thanksgiving and continue and complete the semester remotely is what we decided is the best way to go. Because as you can imagine, if we let everyone go home for Thanksgiving break, or a large portion of the student population goes home for Thanksgiving break, they're going back to their communities, and we're not sure what's going to happen with the rest of the country, right? So you might be going to an unsafe place, you might be leaving here in a way that will make your home counties uncomfortable. So when you get home for Thanksgiving break, you staying there is the best thing for a larger community here in Norwich, and also the other communities that you'll be returning to. You know, it'll be preferable to keep you here past Thanksgiving, but I will tell you that when we talk about testing for colleges and universities to allow to have residencies, we're in the millions of dollars for cost, and that's substantial. So we'd rather let you go home at Thanksgiving break, stay home, continue your semester remotely, and then come back in the spring as we can bring you back in a healthy and recovered and ready to move forward with this freshman year for our rooks and for the rest of your experience. So yes, we did model it. It doesn't make fiscal or safety sense to bring you back after Thanksgiving break. So I hope you can understand that. All right, for nursing, there's a rumor that we'll finish our semester at Thanksgiving break, or that we would be sent home at that time to finish the remainder of the semester at home. Is there a plan to let students who live out of state to be able to stay on campus and finish their semester, or would everyone be sent home? Would students be given the option to stay on campus for the duration of Thanksgiving so they could finish the semester on campus? For students with obligations on campus, like clinicals for nursing students, would they be available to stay on campus in the event of the school having to send students home due to the virus? So the plan right now is that everyone goes home right before Thanksgiving. We'll figure out what date and publish that very soon. But if we can get you home, the plan is that everyone will leave. Of course, there will be one-offs and there'll be unique circumstances. We ask you to elevate those so we can make some decisions on a case-by-case basis. But everyone should plan to leave prior to Thanksgiving and not come back. Criminal justice student. There isn't much of a question, more of a statement. I believe the civilian students really do not need to be on campus as much as the core students do. It may be beneficial if you allow the core students and only civilian athletes to return this fall. We really value and are committed to an in-person campus in-residence experience for all. So we're expecting everyone to plan to return in this, in the fall in person. With all the events happening with racial issues, what measures have been set up to support the students through this time? So it's an excellent question, and part of it is studying the culture correctly and making sure we have an open dialogue and respectful exchanges amongst all students. So one thing that I'm invested in, I've asked the team to look at, and it looks like we're going to be able to execute it by the fall, is increasing the resources of our CWC, our Counseling and Wellness Center. So they will be in full operation for the fall semester, and we're trying to add at a minimum one, which we know we can, but we're trying to get a second person in there. And those professionals are going to help guide our discussions and help guide the campus environment to make sure it's respectful, open, and we're actually adding to the national debate in a very responsible way. Courses of action most likely at this point for return to campus during the fall semester. I think I covered all that pretty thoroughly. If you have a specific question, please put it in the Q&A and I'll get to it when we get to live. Will parents, family, alumni, and regimental ball weekend be canceled due to the virus? If so, how do we plan to break up an already incredibly stressful semester? So please hear me very clearly. This would have been the semester where I got to see all these things happen in person and be able to participate and learn more about Norwich as I'm taking this position over. We all want to have all of our traditional events. We may not be able to. Right now, the governor of Vermont said no large gatherings, and that would preclude many of those things that you listed. We'd like to find ways, we will find ways to break up the semester to make the in-residence experience valuable. And with CWC, we'll work to make it, to have our stress breaks and make sure you're having a good experience when you're on campus. Those issues that are listed there, they might not be allowed by state law. And if we break state law, and if we don't adhere to the rules they set for us, they will not allow us to stay open. And that would be the worst situation we could be in. So we will look at all of them. We'll look for suggestions from the students on how to mitigate the loss of some of them. But generally, we'll have to follow state guidelines, and I know you all appreciate that. How should planning for fall semester be conducted moving forward on the cadet level? So looking at General Vanacek, he has ideas. He's working with the Commandant and the Commandant staff. We will publish more out there, and as cadets, we're expecting to hear from all of you about how you want to do things and how we can do this effectively and worthwhile for all of you. What will the campus environment look like with an in-person fall semester? I think I've answered most of that, but there will be certain levels of social distancing that will be required while you're on campus. So the barber shop, how we're going to feed everyone at the same time, we'll have to follow rules that don't violate state guidelines. So we'll figure those things out, and we're working through them all right now at a very high level of refinement, and we'll publish those as soon as we possibly can. Under all possible courses of action, will any of them hold back seniors from graduating and commissioning on time in May of 21? And the answer is no. We will use that as a priority cornerstone to make sure we get people through, meet graduation requirements, and meet commissioning requirements for those of you that are moving towards active service. So we'll make sure we can do that. You know, I just left my last job. We had to decide in the middle of the spring semester, what do we do with our cadet population of about 4,000. And what we decided was we send everyone home but kept the seniors to make sure they can meet graduation and commissioning requirements, and that let us put one per room. So we will find creative ways to make sure you all meet graduation and commissioning requirements. Okay, what steps are being taken to ensure the safety of new and returning students from the virus? Will each student be tested is the core part of that question. The short answer is we're waiting for the rule. Okay, so not all will have to be tested under current rules, but as we open the campuses, they might say that we will have to test 100%. We will follow the local guidelines, and we want to make sure our faculty and staff feel safe as well. So we might robust beyond what our state requirements, but for now, we will follow the rules, and we'll publish them as soon as we know. So how we'll test students, what will be tested specifically, and the frequency, the duration, the quarantine rules. We're building that now. We'll get that published as soon as we can. Given racial tension and fight for equality around the world, especially in the U.S., what steps will Norwich take to provide a safe and inclusive atmosphere for on-campus for a minority population? So I already mentioned the CWC getting plussed up, and one of them will be an expert on this topic. You know, we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI. You know, I am the chief DEI officer as your president, and I'm fully committed to the concepts and the tenets of the DEI evolution in our country, especially on college campuses. But we will do what is right for this campus community to make sure everyone feels safe. You know, I got to read something in the Guidon yesterday about our new Black Student Union and their approaches and what they're thinking about how to affect the campus environment in a positive way. And I look very much forward to meeting with that group when everyone gets back on campus. What are my thoughts about the alcohol policy? Do I plan on making any changes to it? This is something I look forward to hearing from all of you as students. If you have suggestions to the alcohol policy and how we can and should change it, I would like to hear that suggested through the students, up through the Dean of Students family, and we'll get to your questions. And I'll have an open forum where we all talk in person, and we'll talk about what you suggest and why we can do stuff and why maybe we will do some things, and then how we can maybe, what maybe we can't do, and I'll explain that very clearly if we can't. Stress is one of the biggest challenges for college students, yet is used as a helping training tool at Norwich, whether it's mental, physical, or emotional stress. How do you plan to help students with stress management, especially during this uncertain time? So I'll go back to the CWC answer. We have a great counseling wellness center. We're going to plus it up and resource it appropriately. But this question is written very well because we do use stress as a teaching tool. We use it to build resiliency. And fortunately or unfortunately, this is an area of expertise of mine that we were just able to change curriculum at a service academy to build more resiliency training into the cadet and student experience. Civilian students or Corps cadets at Norwich are going to experience higher levels of resiliency training. Because we can treat, so if we have a emotional or very traumatic event here, we can build up to that event with inoculation and resiliency building and then let you recover from that event with more efficiency. Or we can do less up front, have the event, and then spend more time on treatment, which is much less likely to build you back towards your pre-event state of mind. So I believe in resiliency training. We will use stress and crucible experiences to build up Norwich graduates at the current level they're at in the operational world. Okay. Given my background in leadership development, what do you hope to bring to Norwich to enhance leadership training? I've already talked about in my previous answer those very things, right? Using inoculation, using resiliency training as an inoculation to traumatic events in life and helping you be a more efficient leader, follower, and peer as you enter the post-graduation world. And I also believe very deeply in experiential education, and that's being shown as the primary way to reach the current generation of college students, from the Gen Z, the iGen, and millennials, which are now aging out but still part of our population. So how we reach those age groups, most of your age groups, is through experiential learning is the most effective way. So I want to bring more experiential learning, although Norwich already has an amazing and effective experiential learning program. I plan to expand that further. To answer your question, I want to figure out what's being done exceptionally well, what all of you appreciate, and what our alumni say were valuable for them, and then expand and resource further those areas of excellence. So finding out what works and then expanding those areas. Outside of health concerns surrounding COVID, what is your main focus for the upcoming year? It's learning the culture. I already listed the top 3 priorities, right? We're gonna get through it safely, opening the campus and keeping everyone healthy and safe. Ensuring the continued safe operation of the school and making sure we're putting out graduates at the same quality we have been, and learning the culture. Those are my top 3 priorities. Somebody from the Student Government Association talked about, it's a longer question, which for interest of time, I'll just summarize by saying financial aid structure and tuition and fees tied to the fall semester and possibly spring 21 semester. So fall 20 semester will be considered, because it is, a fully in-resident semester for tuition and financial aid purposes. Unless something extraordinary happens, like it did in the spring of 20, but if that happens, we'll address it as it occurs. And as we have more fidelity of what will happen in the spring 21 semester, we'll publish those rules as the fall semester moves on. There are a lot of unknowns, and we're really not sure about the next wave of the COVID crisis. They're predicting it possibly in November into December, or it might go beyond, it might come left or right of those dates. And if it does, we'll be ready to adapt. We're building very deliberate plans in the school through our very wonderful task forces that are looking at these issues. But we'll have good plans in place so that as things occur, we can move in an agile fashion to accommodate the students and their families. But for now, for your planning purposes, to your question, fall of 20 will be an in-resident experience, in-resident structure for financial aid and student accounting. For the safety of students at Norwich, besides current plans put in place to have students tested prior to returning to campus, what's our plan on how to contain the spread on campus? For example, is there a campus-wide leave policy similar to the Corps Cadets? How will we handle commuter students and students that reside off campus? So right now, there's no plan to restrict the campus, but that might change based on guidance from the governor. We're watching what happens with the University of Vermont and some other colleges that have actually already brought people back, and we'll see how they're making out. But one ways we can ensure that we're going to stay open is to act responsibly. And that part of that is policing each other. So if you see me out and about and I'm not wearing a mask when I should be, I expect you to say, hey, President Narumo, you should, mask, this is a mask place. And I'll say, thank you for reminding me. And if one of you is corrected by a peer, faculty, or staff member, or me, I expect you to say, oop, I forgot, apologies, and I'll get my mask back on. We have to do this right, or we won't be allowed to do it at all. So I really am asking for all of your help in doing this the right way. And that'll include being very respectful of our community, of Northfield and beyond. So we have to act responsibly and in accordance with the rules set forth by our governor. And I will publish those so they're very clear for you. The first sergeant of an upperclassman company asked about, basically it's about housing. Shortage of rooms on campus and floor plans and how the first sergeants and cadet leaders can decide how they're going to do their housing. And first of all, thanks for serving as first sergeant. I remember doing that when I was your agent. It was, it's thankless, but it's difficult. So thanks for taking on that task. So that's a very complex problem, and General Vanacek is working on it very aggressively with the other teams and committees that are putting this together. At this point, really, everything's on the table. We have to maintain the social distancing. We don't want to load up the rooms where it's not safe, but we might be housing students and cadets in other parts of the campus that wouldn't traditionally be used for such things. But we have to make sure we have permission and we can get the blessing from our elected officials and their public health advisors. So we're looking at a lot, and when I say we're looking at everything, we are literally looking at everything with a lot of very talented people, and we're generating ideas from some students. If you have ideas, please do offer and float them up. Okay, CORE has a 4-year leadership development course in which we utilize every second of every day to train our country's next citizen soldiers without any other factors affecting the spread on campus, keeping in mind that as leaders we take into account the mental health of those around us. What is the school doing to work with professors, the AAC, and the CWC to help transition back? Some reassurance that the university is doing all it can do to accommodate the needs of students will go a long way, and offer to work with student leaders and professional staff to adopt formal policies. So I'll just offer to you that we've identified this. I thought about it on my drive out very aggressively, and plussing up the Counseling Wellness Center is going to be stage 1. And as we recover students and students have the opportunity to add their own suggestions, we're going to do even more. But the CWC plus up of 2 is something we're moving out very aggressively to get more help in there, to help monitor mental health of our students, our cadets, our entire community, and to help respond to your needs more efficiently. But if you have more ideas, the person who wrote that question, whose name I won't say out loud here, please do offer them, and we're looking for your suggestions. Someone from the Maroon and Gold Key Club, a lot of questions about the student-run organizations on campus, different clubs, the experiences for incoming and prospective students, and integrating into the culture. So we're going to, in response to the question and the concerns of the Maroon and Gold Key Club, I understand the value of that club. It's been a wonderful benchmark of excellence for the school for a very, very long time. We're going to develop a visitor policy that'll be very clear, and we'll give it to the club members and club leadership so they can start making their plan for how to execute for this semester. It's a very important service that you're providing, so we owe you very clear guidelines. It's really going to be tied to visitor policies that we're going to have to vet through the governor's office. As all colleges and universities in Vermont, we're trying to do things together, so we have a consistent message and procedure that the governor can then look at us all doing it the same way and move forward. So if you have ideas as the MGK club leadership, please do share them, and we can try to get your concerns or ideas integrated into our plan. Public relations is the most important thing to me when performing my duties as a tour guide, student ambassador, and other jobs on campus. How much will campus change that prospective students will now see it differently if they were to attend in fall of 21 versus fall of 20, for example? Students that came last year as freshmen had a much different experience than their previous year of visiting. So there will be a lot of changes, obviously. We'll be very much beholden to what is given to us as professional and really legal guidelines for social interactions. But we will work aggressively to get those guidelines out. Will it be different? Yes. You know, fall 20 is going to be a tough semester for all of us. So I'm asking everyone to be flexible, agile as we respond, and help us develop the right kind of answers so that we can have the best experience for all of our students. What am I most looking forward to with the school year approaching? It's really meeting all of you, immersing with you. The students are the reason that we're here. I want to hear from you. I want to see how you're doing. I want to talk about your ambitions professionally and personally, kind of talk to you about, give you some advice, maybe help steer you in directions that if you're curious on a few different courses courses of action past your graduation, how I can help you decide. I'll have a very personal experience with all of you. If we're allowed to eat in the dining hall or mess hall together, I want to have recurring lunches with all of you so we can talk more openly. So what I'm looking forward to mostly is getting to talk to all of you in a very personal way. What is my involvement with other universities consisted of? How did you like your past positions? And so I loved them all, and it's been it's been instructive how higher education works. I was a visiting scholar, I was an associate professor, an assistant professor before that, a guest lecturer. I've been an online expert at teaching online courses for Michigan State, University of Maryland, Long Island University, and a few others, and an in-person faculty member of several different schools. And of course, I've been a full tenured professor at the Air Force Academy and a director of a leadership center before I came here. And they've all been very valuable. And it's given me a great deal of tools in my toolkit to bring to Norwich to try to move things forward better. I was going to say affect change, but not much has to be changed. I really do sincerely believe that, but we can definitely evolve some things from this great foundation that I'm inheriting. So a lot of experience in higher ed, a lot of experience in the military, commanded at a lot of levels, including a lot of recent deployments. And I'm actually still on active duty until August 1st. So I'll bring a recent operational perspective to the school, and I can help talk through that with all students, civilian and cadets, constantly to talk about what the world's like and what you're going to be inheriting. What is your favorite part of Norwich Northfield just far? Obviously, it's been the graciousness of the people, the hospitality. You know, I did do the social distancing. I did the quarantine as I was instructed to upon arrival. And I had people leaving me gift baskets on the front door and ringing the bell and then running away. And watching blind Reggie run into the door because he didn't realize it was shut, which was sad. But, you know, it was, people knew we had a dog. But some people dropped off cookies they had made. Some people left me very thoughtful cards welcoming me to the area. So the graciousness and the hospitality of the people here have been wonderful. I've been received by the Norwich family that is allowed to be here on campus beautifully. And the ones that couldn't come to campus have written me very thoughtful notes. So my favorite part so far has been that level of graciousness and hospitality, but also the passion for Norwich. You know, it's palpable. It's a very loyal alumni base. It's a very loyal community. You know, we have a lot of trustees that aren't grads, but they believe in Norwich so deeply and so passionately that they give their time and their personal fortune in some cases to perpetuate the school and its mission. So that's what I'm most impressed with, and that's what I've enjoyed most so far. What is the strategy for making sure people are tested before arriving? That is changing, and I had an answer for that, but then it changed yesterday. So I'll just tell you it's going to be fluid. We will post that strategy very aggressively as soon as we're able to, once it actually is made public to us and it's approved, our plan. What if people have trouble finding places that will test them? I think that question is asked in the context of before you come back to campus. You know, you may not be required before you come back to campus. You may be. We'll publish that as soon as we possibly can, as soon as we know. If you have a problem getting tested, please reach out to us aggressively so we can help you come up with a solution. Are tests expected to be back within 2 days? And if so, what if they are not? That is the current test we're considering. It's a 2-day turnaround, 48-hour turnaround. That's why the staggered return is going to be so important, so we can test people. And as we stagger folks in, we can keep them separated physically so that no one's being exposed that wasn't yet tested or that we're waiting for results for. That is our plan, the 48-hour results, but that might change. It might be dictated to us what test we must use. So we will publish that as soon as we have that answer. How likely is that we will be having classes in person? The answer is highly likely. We have to make sure our faculty and staff are comfortable in delivering that format, and there'll be a lot of heavy lift by our faculty. And I ask you to, thank them when you see them. They've done a lot of great work over the summer to adapt their courses to the current realities. So we have to make sure our faculty and staff feel safe. In-person classes will be dictated partly by that, but also partly by how many students we can have in one room at the same time. So we are developing that. Dr. Affinito, our provost, and the faculty leaders at the school, and our facilities team, they're all figuring that out. And we will publish those all as soon as we possibly can. But it is our preference to have this in-person experience because we do believe that's most valuable. And the last thing I will say in response to the earlier questions, because I had a note, international students are students that need the help of the International Center to facilitate their return and academic success when they are here. We do have 2 folks that are working full-time right now in the IC to help, and please reach out to them if you have specific questions. And if you need that contact information, please provide that in the live Q&A, and we'll get that information out. Okay, I think we have about 30 minutes. We have about a little over 20 minutes. And there is a stack of live questions I'm going to reach for here. And this is what's called live without a net, not without risk, right? Is there a date set for us to receive our financial aid packages? Right now, the answer is the week of June 29th. So the last week of this month is when you can expect to receive those financial aid packages. We will try to stick to that date, and if we get other potentials for aid, we will let folks know. But right now, you can plan on those packages the week of June 29th. Is it possible to start the fall semester early in case there's a spike in COVID cases this fall and the campus needs to close? So we're opening and returning folks as soon as it's actually possible, and those are the dates that are being published right now. Moving that further to the left, frankly, we're not ready. The state's not ready, and I don't think our nation's ready right now because now we're seeing a surge of cases, and that's going to drive travel restrictions again. So we're going to stick with our date. If we have to send folks back home early in the fall, we'll do that decision very deliberately, and we'll adjust much like we did here this past spring. But we will plan on starting in August in the published dates, and we'll push that through till the end of the term and in person through up to Thanksgiving. Our class is going to be running in conjunction with a parallel online class in order to accommodate immunocompromised students. So it's a very good question. We'll work those cases case by case. So we can't expect our faculty to do multiple versions of every course. There's not enough bandwidth. We will do what we can to accommodate online learning wherever it's possible. But the provost and the faculty are working very hard to figure out a way to offer our courses in a responsible way that is reasonable for the faculty. Dr. Affinito's here with me. Do you want to add to that at all? Okay, you're good? Okay. Does staggered mean we need to come back to school earlier, or will classes start later? We're going to publish a full schedule very soon. I don't want to answer that yet because we're nugging through what dates are reasonable for return and launching of different classes. So just keep your eyes out, and we'll publish that very formally with very solid dates here shortly. I'm trying to do this fast because there's a lot of questions I want to get to them all. To what extent will the financial deficit caused by COVID affect the distribution of grants? That is an excellent question at a level of detail that I'm not prepared to speak to. And I'm going to hold this question, and we're going to answer this via email once we can get a very well-developed answer, okay? I don't want to talk around that question. I'd rather answer with some fidelity here. So we'll hold this one. I'm going to put it aside and address it via email. How will graduation work in the fall with former seniors suddenly returning to campus with their families? The graduation ceremony that everyone is looking forward to, and oh, by the way, no one more so than President Schneider. We're going to try to figure that out and make a decision on that as soon as possible. We might be limited by the amount of people that are allowed to attend with our graduates, which is not the ideal situation, but we will work through that. We'll talk to the governor's office. We're going to talk to the public health officials to see what we can get approved. Right now, there's no large gatherings permitted. We're going to work with that and try to get some relief in how to pull off graduation. But, everyone who graduated spring of 20, congratulations. This is not the way we wanted to put you out into the world. We will find a way to do something appropriate and leave it up to the graduates, really. If we have to adapt, how we want to move forward. I'm just thinking about the Air Force Academy where I just left. We actually graduated the 980-something seniors in a parade field, sitting 6 feet apart. The Thunderbirds did the flyover. They threw their hats in the air, and then they all stood around looking at each other because they couldn't hug, they couldn't celebrate, their families weren't there. Is that ideal? No. It's something. I ask you all, if you can go online, there's some really interesting historical parallels where some graduating classes, for example, during times of war, at the places like Norwich, the other senior military colleges and the service academies, they left in the middle of their final semester or graduated, commissioned, and off they went. This is not dissimilar to that. It's not ideal, but they look back on those classes as very unique and very special classes. You dealt with a lot of adversity through your graduation requirements, and you're dealing with adversity now for your ceremony. We will do whatever we can to make it right. It might be out of our hands, though, but we'll publish that as soon as we possibly can. Thank you for the robust amount of questions we're getting here. Shouldn't we all stay through Thanksgiving so students with clinicals and sports can still participate? Those will be handled case by case. If there are clinical requirements, please let your faculty advisors know and let us know what has to be done. Athletes that need to stay to participate in their sports, we'll handle those as we can. So everyone should plan to leave around the Thanksgiving time frame and finish remotely. Cases like clinicals, athletes, et cetera, we'll handle case by case. When will we be able to buy plane tickets? We will publish the return dates as soon as we can to accommodate that. I'm assuming the plane tickets, by that you mean to come back to campus. As soon as we get approval from the state government to have our return plan, we will publish the dates so you can plan to grab those tickets. We want to do that sooner rather than later. We expect some final guidelines from the governor in the last week of June. So by the first week of July, we're hoping we can publish some final dates. When I say it's out of our hands, it's literally out of our hands, but we're trying to do everything we can to make sure they can say yes to everything we ask for. Why would we not have nursing students doing clinical hours at the infirmary in order to apply what they are learning? I think it's a great idea. I'm not saying that we won't or that we can't, and I'll leave it to the nursing program leadership and the provost and our folks to tell us what can be done. But having our nursing students that are appropriately completed with coursework and entering clinical phases and can work in the infirmary and the infirmary will accept them, I think it's a great idea. So I'm not saying we shouldn't or that we wouldn't. I'll ask that there's other people that have to weigh in on that decision. And I'm looking at Dr. Affinito, and she's nodding her head that she'll talk to the nursing program leadership to see what's viable.
The director of nursing.
The director of nursing will get an answer through Dr. Affinito. We'll publish that ASAP. If we are going to spend time off campus, will we get a refund? We'll have to see how the semester goes. As I said, just so I can be very clear, I'm not mincing words. The fall semester will be considered a fully in residence semester for financial aid and tuition purposes. If there is a need to send people home early again, we will revisit this question, okay? But for now, you should plan on it being an in-resident experience. Okay. No large gatherings, does that mean no formations? The short answer for that is no. We're going to work with the commandant and through the Corps cadet leadership to figure out ways to do it in a way that does not violate state policy. But we're still planning on having formations as part of your training and experience. FTX training still happen. You know, I would love to say yes to that right now because we badly wanted to, and we're going to move forward as if we can do it. But for now, we just don't know. It's a very unique feature of Norwich that the other colleges don't have to face. We want to, and we're going to move in that direction, but we're not sure yet. We'll know more, I think, in the coming weeks. If Parents and Family Weekend can't be held, how will the Rooks get a break? The Commandant's office is going to give us some recommendations on how to pull that off, okay? Yeah, I'm the president here. I can make a lot of unilateral decisions. It's not really my style. I'd like for the Commandant to tell us about, you know, things like formations, but also the break for the Rooks where they would have had the Parents and Family Weekend. And we'll see how the semester shakes out and how the Commandant and his leadership staff and the Corps Cadet leadership team can make some suggestions, and we'll try to accommodate what is suggested. Will any classes be conducted exclusively online that would be normally in person? And I think we're still working through that. Dr. Affinito and her team and Dr. Clemens and his team, everyone is looking at what the best and most effective delivery models will be for the fall. And those will be published as soon as we have them figured out. And I know a lot of you aren't here physically. When I say everyone's working hard, I mean, they're logging 80-hour work weeks to try to figure out how to deliver the best content to you students so that you're getting what you deserve. And they're working very hard. So which classes will be conducted exclusively in person, exclusively online, hybrid, asynchronous is the new word. We'll publish that as soon as possible, hopefully pretty quick. Dr. Affinito is working very hard with her team to figure that out. What about sports? That's a very general question. So I will just share that no one loves sports more than I do. And no one values the value of athletics on the college campus than I do. We have to balance that with keeping our student athletes safe. Right? We're in multiple conferences. Each conference is going to publish their guidelines very soon. The NCAA is issuing drop-dead dates that they need conference champions designated by a certain date so they can build their tournament fields for different sports and other postseason tournaments. Each conference is developing their plan, and I'm involved with all the discussions, and so are our wonderful coaches and athletic department staff and our director. We will do whatever we can that's permissible for sports. But you got to remember, if our athletes are on the field and we're able to control our Norwich population, keeping everyone safe, as soon as we invite a team to our campus to participate in sports and they potentially affect our athletes, who then infects our entire campus community, we're going to have to close the school, and we don't want that. So we will figure out a way to have some level of sports, and I'm hoping we can do it in an intercollegiate fashion. That will be decided by the conferences, and we do have input, and I'm pushing for competition. But we have to be careful how we pull this off. And I think everyone can understand that. I mean, playing, you know, I'm imagining women's volleyball where we're healthy and someone's going to go block a spike. And all of a sudden, they're exchanging, you know, it's an arduous sport. So it's heavy breathing. They're breathing on each other, potentially spreading infection for each other. Or what about soccer or basketball? You know, every sport is going to have an element of risk, some less than others. The cross country, that probably can go, because that element of close proximity to other athletes isn't present. So I don't like all all or none. That doesn't seem reasonable to me. But I do like the idea of looking at individual sports and seeing what we can pull off safely and then trying to find mitigative strategies for each. And keep watching the news. You know, a lot of sports manufacturers are developing sports masks, so athletes can wear the mask while competing without, but it'll mitigate what's transmitted germ-wise to other athletes. So we'll see what's available and we'll do what's responsible. Will Leaders Week still happen? Yes, Leaders Week will still happen. Why did tuition get raised despite us being there for a shorter time? So I don't know how to answer that one, but I think tuition numbers were set very clearly based on very deliberate planning. I know refunds were issued in the spring for room and board, which was a very difficult, it was the right thing to do, so it wasn't a hard decision that way. But when I tell you that really hit the finances of the school hard, it hurt, but it was the right thing to do, so it happened. Tuition will be consistent with what we've published, and we'll keep moving in that direction. But room and board is something that we can definitely play with if people have to leave early again. Will professional battalion FTX be adjusted, changed, or removed? For now, it'll stay the same. So for planning purposes for the Corps, the battalion FTX's provisional battalion FTX will stay the same. Probably got time for 3 or 4 more. What will happen if there's a COVID case on campus? Okay, that's the $1 million question, right? Because if we don't respond aggressively and competently, it will put everyone at risk. So we're developing our plans and locations for quarantine in a very well-developed way. So anyone who does pop positive will be quarantined until we can run the tests and do what has to be done and then figure out how to take care of them health-wise. And then obviously eliminate, not just reduce, but minimize or fully eliminate exposure to other members of the campus community. Okay, so that plan's being developed, but it'll be pretty aggressive to make sure we get folks in the right safe environment. Regarding extracurricular activities, it is expected that close contact clubs will be canceled. We're not really sure at this time. If we can operate the campus safely, we're hoping we can go back with all club activities, but it'll be fluid. Even if we decide that we can do it safely, we might be told that we can't from our elected officials and public health professionals. But we are looking at it all the time, and those of you that are in clubs, if you can share your thoughts and your plans and mitigation ideas with us, we would love to hear them. All right, last question. What is the arrival plan for late arrival students from military training? We're not yet sure. We're looking at that population very closely. We're going to post the response to that question on the web and via email as soon as we have an adjudicated response. So I have a few closing comments. We have about 5 minutes left. But I want everyone to, hear me very clearly on this. We're going to do everything we can to get the school open and keep it open through the fall term. We think that's the most valuable delivery platform for the students and especially for the Corps cadets through the regimen, the Rook experience, how you're going to gain the leadership experience by delivering all that. That is our desire and that's our intent. And if we can do this in a safe manner, I think we'll be supported. But we might be dictated on some limiting kind of criteria for how we can keep the school open for the fall 20 term. But we do feel good about opening. We just don't know how it's going to look yet. And as we're finalizing those plans and they're approved, we will publish those immediately so you can all plan. But it's a very fluid environment. And if we do have another wave of the virus, we're going to have to adjust. So I ask everyone, it's nice to have solid planning factors, good data from which to make decisions, solid dates, but a lot can change. It's a very difficult time right now. And some states reopened and they're seeing a resurgence of the virus, and those people are going to travel. And that's going to cause higher levels of infection. I had a few trips planned, some very important, taking care of my elderly father, and I've had to cancel them. And because I don't want to risk going someplace and coming back and risking infection of anyone in the campus community or affecting the opening of our campus. So I'll just ask everyone to be patient And trust, I mean, one of the reasons we're doing a live town hall is that you can trust that we're working very hard on these issues, and we're going to get you answers as soon as we possibly can. And if things change for circumstances out of our control, we're going to have to change with them. But we'll do so in a fair and equitable and responsible way to make sure our students, faculty, and staff are well taken care of. So, in closing, obviously there's a whole bunch going on. We're going to publish everything aggressively. Pop onto the Norwich EDU website as often as you can. We'll publish there, we'll post there, and we'll put, so that's you pulling information, we're going to push information as well. I'll do another one of these, at least one more, probably two more, before you get back so we can provide updates and you can ask more questions. And the most important thing is, it's a family here at Norwich. You're all part of the family. You're the reason that we're here as current students. We're going to do the right thing by you. And I think the school has built up a level of trust with all of you that we will continue and will expand further. But everyone's working very hard to do the right thing by each of you. And if you have individual questions, please reach out anytime. We'll be happy to get you the answer. So with that, we are out of time. And I'm going to look around the room and make sure no one has anything they want to add for the larger online environment. Dr. Affinito?
We're here for each and every student's success. We can't wait to see you when we get the signal that all's safe and we can have you right back. So we're here for your success.
Okay, good. Anyone else? Okay, I'm getting thumbs up. Everyone, thank you for your patience. I'll be talking to alumni later in the week and then to prospective students also tomorrow. So we'll be sharing the same messages, but please don't give yourself anxiety in the information vacuum. We're going to be pushing information as soon as it can. And as Dr. Affinito said, we can't wait to get you back. So thank you.